Welcome to In the Arena. I'm your host, Representative Mindy McAlindon. Today we're joined by Beth Campbell, Tennessee's National Committeewoman. Beth has spent many years serving the Tennessee Republican Party, from the state executive committee to representing the state on the national stage. She's been a key voice in grassroots engagement and party strategy. We're going to talk to her about her long involvement with the party, the recent TN07 race with Matt Van Epps, and what's ahead for Republicans in 2026. So, Beth, welcome to the program.
Thank you for asking me, Mindy. It's good to be on.
So, Beth, why don't we kind of start at the beginning? Tell us how you first got involved in Republican politics in Tennessee.
Well, I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. My parents always worked the polls. We would have yard signs in the yard, but I never really got fully engaged until Bill Frist, uh, Senator Bill Frist, or Dr. Bill Frist, ran for the Senate in 1994, 1993, really. And what started me thinking about getting involved is our son was at the U.S. Naval Academy and they were gearing up. Fort Campbell was sending soldiers to the Mideast, and they were everybody, all the reporters, they were trying to find out where the soldiers were going, being deployed, and all that. And they would even ask the service station attendants in Clarksville. Well, our senator at that time was Jim Sasser. He was slated to be the majority leader in the Senate. Well, he got up and he told what this deployment was all about and where they were going. Well, it made me so mad. I shook my finger at the TV screen and I said, Jim Sasser, if we have anybody that is a fabulous candidate to run against you, I will knock on doors. So in Memphis, I ended up being his Shelby County coordinator. My his consultant came to talk to me one day, and I said, "Now, Tom, what do you expect from me?" He said, "I expect 56." Well, I looked at him and I thought, "What does 56 mean?" Well, finally, I said, "I give up. What does it mean?" And he said, "Well, I need 56% out of Shelby County for Bill Frist." And I said, "Oh, okay, we'll do that." Now, fast forward to today, that's a tall order.
Yeah, I was going to say that's not
Uh-huh.
going to
So,
happen.
anyway, believe it or not, we did 56%, and that put Bill Frist in the United
Wow.
States Senate. I then sojourned in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and his consultant was also doing a governor's race, and he said, "Can you help us in Tuscaloosa County?" And that's where I learned that you count every single vote.
Hmm.
Don't think a rural vote doesn't mean as much as a safe bet and a safe precinct. Uh, I was working on a Witten Blunt's governor campaign, and Bob James was running against him, and so I was given my Tuscaloosa County precincts to work on, and we did. and had a team making phone calls and all that. So I went to the county clerk's office that night of election, and I won all of my counties that I was supposed to win by 1,500 votes. So I was ready to go home, and one of our parents, Bill McFarland, was working for Bob James, and he didn't leave. So I thought, okay, if he's not going to leave, I'm not going to leave. So I didn't leave, and pretty soon these rural precincts started coming in, and it would
Hmm.
be 30 for Bob James, 2 for Witten Blunt. And the election we ended up losing the election by 1,500 votes. And it was those rural precincts that came in. So my lesson from that one is don't discount rural precincts. They are just as important as your big city ones. Then I came back to Nashville in '04. I was the county coordinator for Bush uh, Cheney, and I had all 95 counties. And what does that involve? Bumper stickers and yard signs. People get real bent out of shape if they can't get a yard sign. So, anyway, And then I've just been engaged, and I ran for the state executive committee and won for my state senate district. And then in 2016, I ran for the state committee woman. That seat was open here, and I've been on that ever since. And let me just say this, along the way, you meet the most fantastic people, and you will work with each other every day, talk multiple times a day. And then once the campaign is over, you may not see those people for a while. You may be on you may be on opposite sides of the next race, but then on down the road you'll be together again, and you just pick right up where you left off. So that has been really a remarkable part of my political journey, are the people I have met along the way.
It
So
is interesting how you
yeah,
do tend to run into the same people over the years. And like you said, it may be 4 years or 8 years, and you're like, I remember when we worked together in that campaign, and
uh
it's kind of
huh.
fun.
I know it, and then you're connected with each other's family, and there. I
Yeah,
mean, you just become great friends. And,
you do. I mean, you're in the trenches together. Like it
uh
is,
huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. So you are a national committee woman. You've been national committee woman for 8 years
Yeah.
now,
Uh
9 years
huh.
maybe.
No.
Um, Okay, so we've talked a lot about this, that on the national level, it's very different being national committee woman from a national standpoint than being in the state. And I think the state is one of the ways that as a national committee woman, you can make the most impact. And so what do you do as Tennessee's national committee woman to make an impact in Tennessee?
Well, if anybody asks me, I'll go and speak at their county party meeting. If they have silent, just recently, one county had their Reagan Gate dinner, and she asked me if I had anything I could donate. So I went through all my campaign buttons, all that, the that we
Yeah,
get at on these meetings, and so I sent her several things. So she put it in a basket, put it on their silent auction, and it was sold for $300.
that's awesome.
Uh-huh. So, I try to pick up things along the way that recently at the RNC, they were kind of cleaning out a closet. So I took some Christmas ornaments. So as counties ask for things, I try to have something that I can put on their silent auction table.
I agree. So really, I mean, kind of focus on rallying people, right? Inspiring people to keep moving forward, helping raise money, helping bring speakers in. I mean, those are all really critical things and difficult for the county party to do on their own sometimes, right? And that's really where you kind of step in and help get that done.
Well, one of our counties, Cumberland County, is up on the Cumberland Plateau, and the county, that's the state executive committee woman from that county, asked me. She said, "Beth, do you think it would be any way at all that we could get Casey Crosby, our co-chair for the RNC, to come in and do a dinner?" And I just want it to be uh, kind of a unity talk, how we all need to work together and that kind of thing. So I said, sure, let me ask her. And so Casey drove down from Lexington, Kentucky. It was a 3 hour drive. Had a We just about had a sold out crowd, and she gave her talk, and it was wonderful. And I mean, that just means so much to our grassroots folks, and
It
it
really
really
does.
does. Hmm.
Yeah, you
And
are right.
then when we get to 7, we'll talk about you and Casey again.
All right. Well, we just had your chairman over here in Prairie County,
Uh huh.
and he's still riding me because I told him it was just on the other side of Memphis, and it might have been a couple hours on the other side of Memphis, but it was
Yeah.
close. So I appreciate that. Well, let's talk about Tennessee. So Tennessee has been a supermajority for what, no, probably a little bit longer, 15, 18 years
I
now.
think it came out, I would say, '08 is when we really got it.
Okay.
And
So yeah, 18 years.
so what that means is we have a majority in the House, majority in the state Senate. We have all constitutional officers. We have the governor, and we have two uh, Republican senators, and we have 8-1 congressmen. So we are a solid red supermajority state. Well, what that means on the local level is that when we got the supermajority, all local election commissions had to have 3 Republicans and 2 Democrats. So we had the majority on the election commissions. The administrator of elections that is hired by those commissioners also has to be a Republican. So we should have 95 Republican election administrators, and all 95 county election commissions should be solid, controlled by the Republican Party there.
Which is a big deal. I mean,
That doesn't happen in other states. I didn't realize that because I was talking to somebody on the ground in 2020 about they were talking about Floyd County, Georgia, which is Rome, and they were concerned about irregularities. And I said, well, you have the Republican administrative elections and a Republican election commission. There shouldn't be any irregularities. And he said, no, they didn't want to have to get remove the present administrative election because he's a great guy, been there for years, knows everybody in the county. And, I said, well, that doesn't matter. It should be Republican. So we've got to be more forceful, I think, in our other states to make sure we rightfully get our Republicans in positions on the local election commissions, because that is where it all starts.
it does. And I think that puts us right into talking about TN7,
Uh huh.
which was a special election we just had with Matt Van Epps
Yeah.
and Affin, is it Bain? Is that
Yeah.
right? Am I saying that right?
Mhm,
Affin Bain.
mhm,
So
mhm.
let's talk a little bit about that. So there's a, tell us why there was a special election, and let's kind of go from there.
Okay, so Congressman Mark Green had that race, that's district for he was probably elected in maybe 2018. Uh, and but before that, he was the state senator for
Mhm.
several years in Montgomery County, Clarksville. He was he flew special ops out of Fort Campbell, so he was a
Mhm.
great fit for this district. And in August, he stepped down, so that meant we had to have a special election. So in our election law, once you announce that the governor has to call for the special election, and they have so many days to call it, and then after he calls it, there's so many days until the primary vote, and then there's so many days for the general election. Well, when you
Mhm.
counted up all those days from August, it put the general election uh, Thanksgiving.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was really difficult. We had a spirited 11-man primary, and Matt Van Epps won that over 50%. So, so he was our nominee. He's a great guy. He will be excellent serving this district in Congress. But then the Democrats had a spirited primary also, and the one we thought that would give us the most problems was a state house member that was from the western portion of Nashville. And Afton just outworked everybody, and so she won it. And we're all scratching our head and say, who is this girl? We've never heard of her before. And she doesn't even live in the district. So
Hmm.
she she gave us all we could ask for on that. The issue we had was with there's 16 counties in this district. We in early voting, uh, Nashville, which the district is the western portion of Nashville, the Democrat portion, and they had 6 early voting locations, and they stayed open the full, from 8 in the morning to 5 at night. So everybody had a chance to go vote in Davidson County. But you take Montgomery County, where Clarksville is, they only had one early voting location the whole time. And most of the counties just did one. And so if you live on the fringe of the county line and you work in Nashville, you did not have time to go back to your
Hmm.
state, to your county seat to vote. So
So
that's why she did so well in early voting.
let me ask you this, and who set the how many polling locations they were going to have for early voting? Where did that come from?
It comes from the County Election Commission. Uh,
Okay. And those are run by Republicans. So we probably should have had more early
oh,
voting locations.
yeah, yeah.
Right?
And see, once we realized what was happening, uh, it was too late for us
Yeah.
to get them. And I won't name the county, but one of the counties, it was going to cost $20,000 for two more. So the county would have three early voting locations.
Mm.
And the election of administrator there in that county, who is Republican, did not want to ask the county commission for $20,000 because they
Uh-oh.
needed to buy a school bus.
Yeah.
So so guess what? Those people did not turn out in early
Yeah.
voting, but they did have all the places open for election day. So
Oh,
yeah. So that's where election day we really pushed to vote election day, and Matt won easily election day.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good lesson, though, as we look at, the RNC really poured money, as
Uh,
did the DNC, poured a lot of money, a lot of resources into this election. And we can't do that for every election across the country. But I think it's a really good takeaway for Republican parties to say, get a donor. We have donors who can donate $20,000, right? Find another way to raise that money in order to have those polling
well,
locations open.
but I'm thinking, just like in January, all of our candidates are picking up petitions to
Hmm.
run, and I'm sure you're doing it in Arkansas too.
Yeah,
But now is the time to check with your county election commission to say how many early voting locations are you going to have in Pulaski County, Arkansas,
that's right.
and what are their hours? Like the last day of early voting, Nashville had all six open, and they opened from 8 to 4:30. All the other counties, they closed uh, their voting site at noon.
Wow.
So
Wow,
you're
that's
going to
crazy.
one. So coming home from work, you don't have, even if you got off early, you could swing by and vote. But if it's closed, you can't.
You can't.
So
Wow.
we're saying all hours should be the same across the board.
Okay. And will that require a legislative change for y'all to do that?
Well, since this was a special election, a special election kind of falls through the cracks, and
Mm-hmm.
so uh, since he was the only federal candidate on the ballot, the state did not run the election. It was the counties that did it.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
in 26, we probably will uh, have everybody open. But we're probably going to add in our election law, the hours should be the same even in special
And even
elections.
in special. I mean, that
Mhm.
makes sense.
I mean,
So
you
then do
wouldn't
you
think to do that, see, but after we've experienced it, you're going, oh my goodness, yes, we've got
yeah.
to add that. Hmm.
Well, let me ask you a couple more questions real quick.
Uh-huh.
So do you feel like that people are saying it was close? It was 9 points. It was not a close election.
No, no.
He definitely won decidedly, but not as much as Mark Green had won those seats previously, right? At closer to a plus 20. Do you think that's indicative of a shift in the electorate, or do you think it truly is, maybe there's a small shift, but it's really we didn't have the opportunities to vote? Where do you
Well,
fall down on that one?
well, first of all, that district isn't heavily Republican. When they drew that, they drew a lot of Nashville Democrats in that district, the
Mm,
western part of the city. So that election, that district is probably a 10 or 12 point Republican district. So he kind of underperformed, but he was right in that margin where he
okay,
could do well. The problem is, and you thank you for coming to knock doors. You and
of course.
Casey Crosby from the RNC came and helped us knock doors. But as we knocked doors, how many times did you hear, "Oh, is there an election?
Yes.
I well,
Yes.
what are we voting for?" I mean, so they
Yeah.
just because it just got lost in the bustle of leading up to Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's such a hard time. The Tuesday after Thanksgiving, election day, is just crazy, crazy
Hmm.
timing. So let's talk about going forward in 2026, and then I will let you go because I know we're running a little bit long. What kind of advice do you have as people look to 2026 in terms of messaging, in terms of strategy? Do you have any thoughts on what we should be doing?
Well, I always go back. All politics is local. So I think that you've got to pay attention. You've got to be active in your state party and make sure that we do everything in our willpower to elect Republicans. That's the only thing we are charged to do,
Yeah.
Mindy, is elect Republicans. But how do we elect Republicans? They have to turn out the vote. So that is we've got to take that to all of our county parties and make them understand that we're not majoring on minor issues. We have got to be together to get our candidates elected in 2026.
I am going to steal that phrase, to not major and minor issues. I think we do that in the
Yeah,
party, and we nitpick over minor. I just really like that phrase, so I'm going to steal it. I'll try to remember to give you credit for it when I steal
okay.
it.
That's
Well,
right.
Beth, I thank you so much for joining me. I think that it's really important to hear what you had to say about Tennessee 7 and kind of the things to watch out for other county parties and for other states, and make sure, as you said, that we are checking with the election commission and that we know where our polling locations are.
That's
So
right.
thank you so much. Thanks for taking
Oh,
time. Anything else you want to say?
no, just Merry Christmas.
Oh, thank you, Beth. Merry Christmas to you. I'll look forward to seeing you next month.
Okay, bye bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the show with National Committeewoman Beth Campbell out of Tennessee. She has been a warrior for the Republican Party and for conservative candidates for literally decades, starting with Senator Bill Frist. And she is now the National Committeewoman for the RNC. So she works very hard within the state to help her grassroots grow. I think the really important thing to take away from today is talking about Tennessee Congressional District 7, or TN7 as we called it, with Matt Van Epps. And that race between Matt Van Epps and Afton Bain was a real nationalized race because of so much going on. But her takeaways were it wasn't just a shifting in the electorate, it wasn't just Republican versus Democrat. There was also execution of strategy, and that perhaps we didn't do as well as we could have done on our side, on the Republican side. So her advice is make sure you check with your election commissions, make sure that you know where those early voting locations are going to be, and ask now about runoff locations. If you're going to, just in case one of your local races goes to a runoff, make sure you know where those runoff locations are going to be as well. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week in the arena.